adopt the regular council meeting minutes for April 7th, 2026, and the committee of the whole meeting minutes for April 14th, 2026.
Thank you. And with that, please vote. And that's passed. Thank you, council. Minute with council. Do we have anyone today? Anyone online?
No one this evening.
All right. Then on to presentations, and everybody's here to learn about the town of Hinton financial statements. So Israel, thanks for coming, and the floor is yours.
Right. Oh, perfect. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me here again this year to present the audited financial statements for 2025. If you have any questions during the audit, or sorry, during the presentation, feel free to stop me, ask your question, okay? Because I can answer as we go. During this presentation, I'm going to focus on three things. We're going to focus on the audit results themselves, what the financial statements or the financial information actually means, and as well as the key takeaways for council and for the municipality as a whole. So before getting straight into the numbers, I'd like to say that this was a very clean audit. We issued a clean audit opinion, meaning that the financial statements presented fairly in all material respects the town's financial position and the results in accordance with public sector accounting standards. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean we didn't find anything. We did identify some issues, some control issues that we brought to management's attention. We included it in a management letter that we provided to the administration. Now, council does have access to that letter. You just simply have to request it. And so you can see. It's just the items that we include on there, in my opinion, are not significant enough that I need to put it on the audit findings report and present to you guys. It's more of just operational type improvements that they can make. Is there any questions so far? Okay. So what does that mean for town and council? It means that the financial reporting is reliable, that controls are functioning appropriately, and from an audit perspective, this reflects a very strong financial reporting environment within the town. So for the town of Hinton, if you look at the entire financial statement package, it's over 30 pages long. So we'd be here all night if we were to go through that line by line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on two main statements. It's going to be the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus, as well as the consolidated statement of financial position. Now, I'm not sure of the total level of financial knowledge everyone's at. So I'm going to keep it very basic. And if I'm going too slow, simply say, Israel, speed it up. We've got it. Or if I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down and I can explain what something is. So basically, the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, that tells you how the town performed during a 12-month period. It's going to show all of your revenues coming in as well as your expenditures going out. Now, the main statement of operation shows your revenues by object. So it's going to show your net municipal taxes, your user fees, your penalties and interest income, rental income, investment income in that format. Then when you get to the expense side, it's going to show you your expenses by segment or program area. So it's going to show you your legislative services, your administration, as well as protective services, transportation, and so forth, okay? Now, good thing though, if you want to break down those program expenses by object, meaning breaking it down by salary, contracts, materials and supplies, transfers to local governments, amortization, you just simply have to go to Schedule 4 and Schedule 5. Schedule 4 and Schedule 5 will break down each individual program area by object. So you have all the information you need within those statements. The next statement we're going to concentrate is the consolidated statement of financial position. In my view, that is the most important statement. It tells you this is where the town is on this day. So it's a snapshot in time saying this is all of the assets, all of the liabilities, and all of the accumulated surplus on December 31st, 2025. So this is that first part of the statement of operations and accumulated surplus that I was talking about. There you can see all of your revenues by object. You also have 3 columns. You have the 2025 budget, the 2025 actual, and the 2024 actual. Now, numbers by themselves don't really mean a lot unless you have something to compare them to benchmark them to. So what we're doing here is we're benchmarking or comparing them to the budget and to prior year actuals. Now, the key differences when comparing to prior year, or the key difference when comparing these columns is that if you look at your budget to actual variance on users fees, it's 1.7 million. So you can see there that you had 1.7 million more than what we had budgeted for. However, what we have to remember is that the town does not budget for the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority user fees that come in and are reported on our actuals. That's 1.4 million right there alone. So of that 1.7, 1.4 is simply the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority.
Sorry, you said we don't?
Budget for it? No. So if I go line by line, looking at the town's budgeted revenues, you'll budget for your water consumption to residents, water consumption by commercial, wastewater, waste, so on and so forth. But when I get to the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority, when I get to that line, there's no actual budget line item in there.
Is it normal that we would see that kind of revenue coming in then?
Yes. Yeah, you see that revenue come in every time. And I actually, at a later stage, I reconcile the municipal budget to the operating, so that it makes it more comparable apples to apples, because it's not exactly apples to apples here, right? When you're looking at your 2025 budget, you don't have the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority in there. There's also other items that aren't included in a budget, because remember, municipal budgets budget based on cash flow, right? They count reserve transfers in as revenue. They count reserves transfer out as expenses, whereas in financial reporting, we use accrual basis. We don't count reserve transfers on the statement of operations at all. That's why when you look at the bottom there, you'll see that the next slide. But we'll get to that, actually. That's a very good question, and we will get to that specific question. Okay?
Well, it just seems to me that that's 10 percentage points on a tax increase that we're ignoring.
You could build that into your budget. There's nothing saying you cannot build that into your budget.
All right, thank you.
It's just you're going to have to coordinate with them to actually get a meaningful number. Okay. Last year, the municipality didn't budget for amortization. And then this year, they actually incorporated that into their budget process So now it's actually more meaningful than what it was even last year. And most municipalities don't budget for amortization at all. And then their budget to actual comparison looks really wonky. Okay, so of the 1.7 million variance, 1.4 we've already attributed to the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority, but 300,000 is also a variance due to water fees. So the water usage revenue that was coming in was higher by 300,000 when compared to the budget. Now, comparing last year's user fees to this year, we went up significantly. Went from 7.9 million to 12.1. So that variance, 2.5 million, is due to an increase in revenue generated from the water distribution. Okay. 1 million is an increase in wastewater treatment income. And 400,000 is attributed to an increase in the revenue from last year's Yellowhead Regional Wastewater WYR WMA. Those guys. And then besides the user fees and sale of goods, everything else, they're actually quite close. There's not a lot of significant variances, especially when I break it down by account, because the variances you do see up there, when I break it down to the account level to try to come up with a meaningful explanation, those variances become even smaller. One that I would look at is your government transfers for operating or your grant revenues. So there's an increase there from 32 million to 37 million. And well, we had 100,000 more in federal grants this year. We had 500,000 more in local government grants, as well as 400,000 more in provincial government grants. Now, taking a look at the expenses, not a lot of variance fluctuation there at all. You budgeted 34,175,000 in total expenses and 34,027,000 in actuals. Your actuals last year was 32,743,000. The largest variance in this area is in environmental services, which is understandable given that we had such a huge increase in revenues and activity within that area, installing meters and so forth like that.
Does that all go under environmental services? 'Cause
Yes.
on Schedule 4, we're showing user fees of around $11 million in there. So that would include the water meters?
Yes.
Okay.
The user fees are just the revenue coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is the expenses only. And like you had just said, going to Schedule 4 and Schedule 5 breaks this down in an even more meaningful manner. Taking a look at from a summary point of view, you'll see your revenues, your expenses, as well as your other items or your capital items. So you can see your total revenues for the year was 37 million. Total expenses were 34 million, leaving us with a surplus of 3. From the 3 million, we then have transfers for capital of 7, loss on disposal of 95,000, and developer offsite levies of 114,000. Overall, we have a total annual surplus of 10,159,000 compared to the budget of 10,148,000. So from this, at face value, it looks like we hit budget bang on at face value. Let's take a look at an adjusted view. So what I've done here, okay, So what I've done here is I've made it so we can actually compare apples to apples. I took the 2025 budget as per the statement of operations, which showed a surplus of 10,148,000. And then I adjusted for the budgeted amortization. That gives us an actual cash surplus of 15,199,000. Now, from that 15,199,000, we were planning on receiving 4.2 million in new long-term debt. It didn't materialize, but we were planning on it. We were also planning on bringing in 10.8 million from our reserves, giving us total cash available of 30,250,000. Now, from that 30,250,000, what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to transfer 6 million back into our reserves for future projects and contingencies. We're going to repay long-term debt of 805,000. And then we acquired 23,357,000 in tangible capital assets. Your tangible capital assets are things like your buildings, infrastructure, machinery and equipment, vehicles, all of that kind of stuff. And that is your zero forecast, or what you are anticipating you are going to do. Now, comparing our apples to apples, we take our reported surplus of 10,159,000, we add back the amortization, back out the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority net operations, and what we're left with is a surplus of 14,618,000. We have no new debt, but we did bring in 6.5 million in transfers from reserves, so a bit less than what we were going to, which gave us total cash available of 21,167,000. From that 21,167,000, we transferred 7.4 million back to reserves. We repaid long-term debt of 623,000, and we purchased capital assets of 12,096,000. So we didn't complete as many asset projects as we anticipated, is what you can take from there. And we didn't get the insurance proceeds. But in the end, we ended up with an adjusted results from operation of 1 million. So now we're comparing apples to apples. The town actually had a 1 million better result than what you anticipated was going to happen.
With that surplus, is there a bylaw in place with how that's treated, administration? That flows back into reserves, I think.
Through the mayor, members of council, that's correct. That'd be through our reserve policy. So it breaks it down between all of the different reserves and how that's allocated.
So council doesn't sort of get involved in that process at all then?
I'll look to Ms. Bourbeau.
So not at this stage, but the reserve policy can come back at any time and adjustments can be made to the percentage of allocations.
Okay, thank you. Dooley? Oh, Councillor Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The $1 million, what looks like we're doing better isn't that we're necessarily doing better just because we did less things. So if a project that we were planning on doing wasn't able to be done in 2025 and is pushed up to 2026, am I understanding that right? It looks good, but it just means we're going to spend it this year.
I rejigged this presentation about 20 times trying to figure out what's the best way to present it. It can be manipulated easily. You just simply, if you want to look better, you do less transfers into reserves. Now, and that's something completely in your controls. It's not a real expense. It's just a cash flow into operations, right? So yes, you can. If you wanted to kind of look at pure performance, I would actually look at the 15 million compared to the 14 million. So there you performed a little bit less. That's pure performance. That's your pure revenue coming in, pure expenses going out. But then when we go and we take a look in terms of cash outflow, a good line to look at would be the acquisition of tangible capital assets. you can look at that good or bad. There would have to be a lot of research in there. That 12 million could be, well, you guys spent a lot less than you thought you would, and you were way more efficient. Or it could be that you were less efficient and didn't get the projects done.
Which was it?
So just if I can follow up, just if people are watching or kind of see it, it's not that we've collected an extra $1 million of taxes that we have. It's just kind of how the cookie ends up crumbling at the end of the year. when
That's
you
right.
Break it all down.
What a lot of people don't understand is municipalities need to have a surplus because they need to upkeep their infrastructure. They need to continually be purchasing capital assets, and they need to pay down long-term debt that they use to upkeep their capital assets. So it's usually about if they want to look at how much should they be accumulating in surpluses, that's when you look at your 5-year capital plan. Because your 5-year capital plan is going to tell you, this is what we plan to do in the future. How much money do we need to have to do that?
Councilor McLean.
Yeah, and just the repayment of long-term debt. If we're budgeting for 805 and we only did 623 and we end up with a surplus, well, why wouldn't we do the 805, right?
Well, I'm assuming that 805 was a result because our repayment of long-term debt is set. Treasury says this is what you will pay every year. So it's set, and usually the budget matches that line perfectly. But you can see we anticipated we were going to take on more debt. So I think what happened is we anticipated we were going to take on more debt, therefore we would have had to have repaid more principal during the year. And then that never materialized. Now, I know some of that debt is coming this year in 2026. Well, it already has happened.
I go back to the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority surplus again. There's $1 million there. Like, why are we backing that out of available cash flow? What happens to that $1 million?
Because I want to be able to compare budget to actuals.
Sure, I'm just talking about the practicality of it. What happens to that $1 million?
Well, the million is actually still sitting with the Waste Management Authority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't actually have it yet.
Okay, that hasn't been, okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay, so as I indicated before, I believe that the strongest indicator of the financial health of the municipality is the financial position. It's not just about the surplus and the statement of operations. So what this is showing us is that we went from 34 million last year in total assets to 44 million. And these are not just assets, these are your financial assets. So that's all of the assets that are either cash or can be converted to cash in a very short period of time, as long as all commitments have been met. So you can see you have your cash. Cash went down a little bit from 9 million down to 8. Your taxes receivable, that stayed fairly consistent. Your trades and other receivables went up about 500,000, but you can see your due from other governments. That went from 2 million up to 12 million. Now, your due from other governments, that are all of your grants that have been approved and authorized that you have not yet received the money for. Okay. If you go to note 3, you'll see the breakdown by grant, what makes up that number. Any questions on the financial?
So investments, is that roughly our reserve accounts?
It is a big chunk, yes. You would
Because the reserve accounts are like 23.8 million,
yes.
but wouldn't it be reflected in there
Well,
somewhere?
it's no, you've got your investments and cash.
Okay.
So now these are your financial liabilities. So you went from 16 million to 23 million in financial liabilities. You have a big jump, but not as big as a jump as you've had in your financial assets. The biggest jump would be your deferred revenue. So when I said that those were grants that have been authorized and approved but not yet received, deferred revenue also is grants that are authorized, funds that you have already received that are now restricted, and grants that have been approved, but you haven't spent the money yet. And once you spend that 13 million, that 13 million turns into revenue. Okay? So when you're looking at your liabilities, deferred revenue is not like accounts payable that's going to be cash out the door in the next few months. Deferred revenue is money that you only have to pay back if you don't meet the criteria within the grant contract. Make sense? Your asset retirement obligations, you'll see that increased. That will increase every year over time. And what that is that you have buildings that contain asbestos. So we anticipate what the cost of cleaning that up will be when the building comes out of service. Now, when we initially record it, we record it at a future value. And then as we get closer to that date, the value increases because now we're getting closer to the actual amount. So that's why you'll see that increase every year.
So of that $13 million worth of deferred revenue, 6.8 million of that's from Alberta Transportation. Is that one project? Is that a bunch? Like, what are we waiting on for that?
I would
Money.
have to leave that details about.
Through the mayor, members of council, it wouldn't just include one, but I believe it was primarily due to one STIP grant. And I'll look to Mr. McLaughlin. Are we able to announce that yet? We are? Okay. Yeah, that was in relation to the culvert. That would be crossing Highway 16. I believe that was close to about 5 million of that. No?
Through the mayor to council. So that's certainly one of it. I think that was $2 million of it. The other one was the 4 million for upstream water resiliency projects.
Yeah, that was the 5 million for the new stave line, the clarifier gearbox, and the backup generators for our water treatment system.
Thank you. And then can I just ask one, because I mean, I've read a lot of financial statements. What's non-capital debt?
Okay. So when you acquire debt in a municipality, you can acquire it for operational purposes,
Okay.
or you can acquire it for capital purposes. And so non-capital debt is the debt you acquired for operational purposes.
So if there's $790,000 in there, then we spent that on operations.
That's right. It's not tied to a capital item that exists. It's
Okay, thank you.
so summarizing it, we take our total financial assets of 44 million. We subtract our financial liabilities of 23 million. And what we're left with is net financial assets of 21,205,521, which is a very strong position for the town. That 21 million, you add on your non-financial assets, which are your prepaid expenses, inventory for consumption, as well as your tangible capital assets of 161 million. So the 161 plus the 21 gives you total accumulated surplus of 182,779,389. Another good way to look at is of your accumulated surplus of 182, 161 is already tied up in something tangible. You can't access it. But 21 million is your liquid assets. However, of that 21 million, you guys have already internally restricted it within your reserves. So to summarize, what I feel that the council should really be taking away from this presentation, or what I'm trying to communicate, is that one, this has been a clean audit, which demonstrates good governance, and that we've only identified minor issues that have been communicated in the management letter. There's been no material deficiencies and no concerns that I feel like I need to bring forward formally in the form of an audit findings report. The surplus difference, or the surplus variance, is within acceptable standards. And where we do have large variances, it's easily explained. And that the town remains financially stable and well-positioned for future projects as well as contingencies, and is able to make continual meaningful contributions to its reserves. That is it.
Note 17 says that we're a member of the Alberta Municipalities Insurance Exchange, and if there's a loss, we would need to cover our proportionate share of that. What's the exposure there?
Through the mayor, I'd refer that to Ms. Bourbeau.
Could you repeat the question? I'm not.
So note 17, I found it interesting. So we get our insurance through the Alberta Municipalities Insurance Exchange. And then it goes on to say, and if there's a loss, we would need to cover our proportionate share of that.
So we are a member. Our rates for our insurance are reflective of the large membership, which we are. But our insurance is handled in the exact same manner that it would be handled for a business. If you have a claim against your insurance, then you are responsible. You pay your portion of the deductible, and it goes through the regular insurance process. Is that what you're asking? I'm not 100% certain.
Let me go to note 17.
Just gonna open mine up.
It says under the terms of the membership, the town could become liable for its proportionate share of any claim losses in excess of the funds held by the exchange. So I'm just curious what kind of exposure that creates.
So that is not something I would have an answer for right now. I would
Okay.
want to circle back with insurance.
Is it something we should look at insuring our insurance for? I don't know.
Theoretically, what that means is that if you had a humongous claim, let's say the whole darn town burnt down, and you had a huge claim and it completely bankrupt the exchange, that means that the exchange no longer has to cover you beyond what they have available, that you guys are now responsible. Yeah, you guys are responsible for the rest, and you can't go back and sue them saying, oh, well, I thought we had insurance. That's what that means.
Okay.
That's a pretty far crazy.
I guess it depends whether there was a province-wide something.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask for the financial statements of the exchange, and
Not interested, just happy to
and
understand
their
what it is we're
viability of
talking about.
as a going concern.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, council? Thank you, Mr. Washman, for your presentation. It's clear as mud. And I mean, I looked at financial statements for a long time and wrapped my head around municipal financial statements is a whole other beast. So
Definitely is.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
All right. No, we need to approve the statements first. So with that, then, as Mr. Wasserman pushes back, maybe we can move into action item 6.1. Council, how would you like to deal with this? Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make the motion that council adopts the Town of Hinton 2025 consolidated financial statements as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, thoughts, questions? All right, seeing none, then I call to question that council adopts the Town of Hinton 2025 consolidated financial statements as presented. Please vote. And that's passed unanimously. Councillor Charlton has her hand up. And with that, I would like to just call a 5-minute recess. We would like to sign the statements before Mr. Wasserman heads out. Is that correct? So if I could just call a quick 5-minute break and we'll get the statements signed and he can get them back to Edmonton and filed. Thank you.
Myself and member of council.
Oh, great.
Obviously, that's me. Go for the girl in the white. She's been around a long.
Here, you're the oldest. You're the old bird. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're signed, delivered, and ready to go then. All right. Then on to action item 6. Oh. Thank you. Anybody who is watching online, we just needed to get the financial statements signed and headed to Edmonton. That being done, we're on to action item 6.2, which is our spring budget adjustments administration.
Thank you, Mayor. And this one will go to Ms. Barbeau.
Thank you, Council. Further to the committee of the whole meeting last week, administration received some direction to make a couple of additional changes to the budget adjustments. So you'll find that we are anticipating a ruling from the Utilities Commission. 572,000 is our current estimate. We would be funding that out of reserves. We're taking advantage of a $350,000 reduction in the 2026 RCMP contract. We have projected a $50,000 increase to fuel costs. We now are showing debenture payment increase as we withdrew some money earlier than anticipated. There was an increased allocation to the community grant program of 18,546, which brings the full complement of that budget line item for 2026 to $25,000. And there was discussion also that in light of the change to assessments, that perhaps this wasn't the year to utilize the tax stabilization reserve. So that has been put back into the budget. Net changes to the budget of $82,975,000. If adopted with these changes as brought forward, it would result in a final municipal tax requirement of $16,253,391. With that, I will take any questions. Our recommendation this evening is to accept them as adopted or as adjusted, and I leave that to council.
Councillor Charlton.
Question for administration. Under 1-2-200 contracted and general services, where we took the surplus from the RCMP allocation, because it's kind of all merged in with contracted and general services. When I look at the lines of Plan 2027, 28, and 29, seems like those numbers stay very, very similar. I'm just wondering, is the intent that we would still have a budgeted amount if we do fill those RCMP allocation? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Thank you for the question. We receive quarterly updates or reports, if you will, from our CMP on our contract throughout the year. The reduction this year is truly a reflection of just a point in time of positions being open. So the adjustment for the plan in 27 forward will come forward to council at budget time again. And at that time, we will have received the new forecast amounts from the RCMP.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up on that question? Because isn't it like my understanding, I think we had 12 members instead of 19, but isn't the hiring process active throughout the year? Like there wasn't a budget decision to keep it at 12. Like, isn't that something that continues onward?
Through the mayor, members of council, really how it works is the RCMP have an authorization to spend up to a certain amount of members. That number will be a little bit different than what we actually budget, because when we actually go to budget, we don't, and we do the same thing for our staff, is we don't budget the full amount of all of our staff. We have a vacancy modifier that we build into the budget, just because we don't anticipate that the RCMP are going to be able to run all year with all members available, just in practicality. So we do budget a little less than what they're able to staff, but they are able to, at all points in time, staff to the level that we've agreed to in our agreement. So there's always a potential that we would be a little bit over budget on this line if they were to have more members than we expect for a larger amount of the year.
Okay. Council. Councillor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council approves the inclusion of the spring budget adjustments in the 2026 operating budget, resulting in an adjusted municipal taxation requirement of 16,253,391. If I can speak to it briefly, I think we did good work at standing, increasing the community grant program to something that makes it worthwhile and ensures that continuity of participation with the program. And then also the elimination of the draw of the tax stabilization this year, I believe, is also very wise. The next few years could be super interesting. And when things come out rosier this year than we were expecting, I think keeping our powder dry with that is good as well. So I'm happy to put this forward. Thank you.
All right. And with that, any other thoughts, comments? Seeing none in queue, then I call the question. The council approves the inclusion of the spring budget adjustment in the 2026 operating budget, resulting in an adjusted municipal taxation requirement of 16,253,391. And with that, please vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. And before we move on, administration, given that now the committee sort of charged with spending that $25,000 actually as a meaningful amount of money, can we follow up with all of them and let them know that that change has now been approved?
We certainly will.
Thank you. All right. And then with that, we are on to action item 6.4, which is the reimbursement of expenses in corporate credit card policy number 1302. Administration.
Through the mayor, I have the 2026 rates of taxation bylaw.
Oh, yes.
Going.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. And that one will go to Ms. Borbo as well.
So before you this evening is the first look at the 2026 rates of taxation that would support the budget as just previously approved by council. The report before you shows some increases to the tax rate in both the municipal, residential, as well as the non-residential sectors. There's been a brief breakdown of what this change will mean dollar-wise to members of our community for different homes in the Hill Valley, as well as non-residential in the Hill and Valley. Overall, the increase in 2026 as presented represents approximately a 7.08% increase to the tax rate. I am here for any questions. We would be looking, if possible, this evening for 3 readings of this, so that if this rate is agreeable to council, we can work on getting the notices out to the community.
Thank you. Council? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'd like to move the council give first reading to tax rate bylaw number 2028.
Thank you. With a motion on the floor, any thoughts? I do have a quick question. That 708, is that the same for residential, non-residential?
Through to all of council, due to rounding, the non-residential rate shows up at 7.09%,
But roughly.
but roughly, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, with that, I call the question. The council gives first reading to the tax rate bylaw number 2028. Please vote. And that's passed unanimously. Thank you, council. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make the motion that council gives second reading to tax rate bylaw number 2028.
All right, motion on the floor. Any comments? Seeing none, I call the question. The council gives second reading to the tax rate bylaw number 2028. Please vote. And that is where we're missing. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. Council? Councillor Dunn.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of tax rate bylaw number 2028.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Did you have a comment, Councillor Nelson? Okay.
What would be the practical implications of not passing third reading tonight?
Through to all of council, we still have time. There is no rush to do it, but we are required to have our notices out at no later than June 1st, although historically we always try to have them out in May so that we're giving residents and business owners an opportunity to have a couple months to plan for this expense if they're not on the monthly payment program. It would also require that if we do miss the June 1st mailing deadline, that it would require that we change our fees rates, or sorry, our penalties bylaw, because those dates are set in as 30 days after June 30th, et cetera, et cetera. So there would be some housekeeping that would have to be done. We are still working on getting the notices generated through the new software system. So we are probably 10-ish days away from being able to release and have them mailed out. So it's not dire, it's past this evening, but it's definitely there for consideration if there's a different opinion.
Yeah, if I could speak to it, when it comes to anything taxation, I don't love doing all three readings in the same meeting. I think we're okay. Personally, I'm okay this time because there's not, it's less than what people were expecting, but it's still a significant increase. And whatever we talk about in committee is in committee. And this is really the first time that people are seeing the updated budget. So, and I don't know if there's a subsequent motion that can be made or just a practice that if my feeling is if admin needs that extra 2 weeks in order to make sure you've got, like, we don't need to add any extra stress or workload, but I would just say bring the spring adjustments 2 weeks earlier so that we're not in a position where we create more work for you guys without passing all three readings in the same night. So it's just for me a cautionary tale, and we passed all three readings on financial matters before and had some pushback that was probably fair, where it's like, wow, this just came in front of council and it's three readings. We thought we'd have opportunities to communicate with you. So I will support it. But I don't know that I would be in that I would get into a consistent practice of supporting all three readings on something that impacts people's what people are paying and the decisions they have to make. So ultimately I'm comfortable with this one, but in the future maybe not so much. So thank you.
That's a really good thought. Actually, I agree with the sentiment. I think that would be a good practice to get into and allow citizens the opportunity to respond. But seeing no one else in queue, I call the question. The council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of the tax rate bylaw number 2028. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. Councilor Nelson.
I'll move that council gives third reading to tax rate bylaw number 2028. Thank you.
With no one in queue, I call the question. The council gives third reading to the tax rate bylaw number 2028. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you, council. And now, with the exuberance I showed earlier, maybe we can move on to action item 6.4, the reimbursement of expenses and corporate credit card policy number 1302. Administration.
Thank you, Mayor. And this one will go to Miss Leasemaster.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This policy was before you last week at Committee of the Whole. A couple of housekeeping changes have been made to the policy, some spell checking changes, and a change in the definition of corporate services, just to make it more clear that it's the responsibilities of accounts payable. Admin is seeking approval of the policy this evening if council is amenable, and I'm here for any questions.
Council? Councilor Nelson.
I'll move that council approves the reimbursement of expenses and corporate credit card policy number 1302 as presented. I appreciate a lot of the cleanup that's been done with this and adding some clarity to the staff. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any comments, thoughts, questions? Seeing no one in queue, then I call to question the council approves the reimbursement of expenses in corporate credit card policy number 1302 as presented. Please vote. And that's passed unanimously. Thank you. And then on to the final action item of the night, 6.5, which is strategic and tactical plans. Administration.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We do have the strategic and tactical plan both here for, well, the strategic plan for your approval and the tactical plan for your endorsement this evening. We have made a few changes to the tactical plan stemming from the last committee of the whole meeting. For the strategic plan, we did remove the advocacy page until such time as council had further time to discuss and to determine what the top advocacy priorities are. We do plan on bringing that forward soon. We did adjust 119 and 1110 to Q2 of 2026. We have reflected that the tactical plan will be adjusted or reviewed quarterly. Item 153 was added, and this one wasn't talked about, but we didn't quite know the wording at the committee of the whole, but we have added a new item 153, formalize a coordinated enforcement approach to improve proactive visibility, response consistency, and effectiveness in addressing community safety concerns. I will take any questions that council may have, and if not, it's there for your review.
What does that mean?
Through the mayor, we are doing this already, but it's not a formalized written procedure. But when it comes to 153, I'll go to the specific goal, but it was in relation to the homelessness and community impact, facilitate the work of organizations, serving homelessness to reduce community impacts. And this is really in relation to the community impact side of things. So we wanted to have an approach to how we are going to be dealing with these things. We've talked about it internally amongst the different agencies with our peace officers, RCMP, with HELP. How do we deal with the community impacts and, just a better way? We've talked a lot about increasing our visibility within the community, even just having a cruiser parked in strategic locations when it makes sense. So we have been doing a lot of that work, but we wanted to formalize how we're going to do it and just make a more concerted effort to be more visible and to deal with these things a little bit more proactively.
Thank you. That actually makes sense.
Can I help with anything else?
No. Councillor Nelson.
Thanks. I'll reset and figure out what I was talking about. I actually last week at BSN, which I guess I'll hit on council reporting, but somebody brought up the fact that there's no growth. So and it was something that really resonated with me a lot, and I considered a lot, and I believe that every strategic plan since I've been in this community has had a major focus on growth, and it's something that isn't mentioned at all in our strategic plan, and it is something that is talked about as what the community wants to see as our council focus. What it really made me consider is, through our strategic plan, are we creating the opportunities and the environment for growth? And I think the answer to that is yes. So we're about the different community groups and ease of development and all of these things. I think it creates the environment for, and I actually feel like not having it there means we're not chasing it. And I think when you're chasing growth, you might kind of get over your skis a little bit sometimes, which I think has happened in the past. And I think building the right foundations that will allow for growth, I actually believe is the right strategy. But it was just something that was brought up, and it really made me pause and consider, and I've had a week since then to really think about it. So it's something I just wanted to bring up as a group in case anybody else was thinking, man, we didn't have growth in our strategic plan, and growth is always in a strategic plan. So thank you.
I agree with you 100%. Governments suck at doing that. So I think setting well, no, truthfully, I mean, our job is to set the environment to allow growth to happen. And I do think that's the right way forward. So thank you. That makes sense to me. Councilor McLean.
Yes, and going through the strategic plan process and going through the tactical plan and the committee of the whole last week was quite an eye opener for me. I didn't realize that we would be doing that in-depth a plan moving out forward. It's a robust plan. I think it's a plan that's achievable. Right. I want to thank administration for the work. I want to thank council for the work that we put in at our retreat when we did the strategic plan together. And I also want to thank the citizens that filled out the survey and came forward. And I think this plan covers just about everything that the citizens were wishing to see in our community. And I agree with Councillor Nelson with the growth part. It's our job is to foster that environment, as the mayor said, so that the community can move forward. I would also like to thank the individuals that contacted me personally, and I'd like to thank the a couple of my neighbors that opened their house and we had a roundtable discussion with a bunch of concerned citizens. And once we went through the plan and went through the technical plan, they all envisioned our movement as a community moving forward. And again, when we sit down and talk to citizens that are engaged, I believe once they're giving the opportunity speaking and giving the information that they need to look at each individual topic, that they agree that this is the right path forward for Town of Hinton. So again, I'd just like to thank everybody that had a hand in this. And I think, we got a lot of work ahead of us for the next 3.5 years, but I think it's achievable. Thank you.
Thank you. Council. We got to do something with these documents. Councillor Charlton.
I'd like to make the motion that council approve the 2026 to 2030 strategic plan.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any other thoughts or comments? Seeing no one in queue, I call the question. The council approves the 2026 to 2030 strategic plan as presented. Please vote. And that's approved unanimously. Thank you. Council. Councillor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council endorses the 2026 to 2030 tactical plan as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor. With no one in queue, I call the question. The council endorses the 2026 to 2030 tactical plan as presented. Please vote. And that's approved unanimously. Thank you, council. And with that, we've come to the end of our action items for tonight. We have, though, some correspondence to respond to. The penalty removal request, administration.
Through the mayor, I believe just before correspondence, we had the National Volunteer Week proclamation as well.
I thought that was coming next week. I don't have it on my agenda, so if I can just zip over to, there we go. Thank you. And a shout out to all the volunteers. Really, it's a lifeblood of any community. And Hinton's really lucky to have a bunch of really passionate people doing what they're passionate about. And I think it makes this a better place to be, and really makes Hinton as good as it can be. And with that, whereas Hintonites generously give their time to our community through formal and informal volunteering, whereas volunteers in Hinton mentor our children, engage with seniors, support those who feel isolated, share what they have, and inspire those around them. Volunteers beautify our green spaces, fill board and committee seats, and fund a raise for our charities and nonprofits. Whereas the nonprofits and charities we serve provide sports training and competition, recreation and leisure, education, health and wellness, human and social services, environmental stewardship, access to arts, culture, heritage, and so much more. And whereas Hinton's volunteers are you and I, our families, colleagues, and neighbors, we strive to help strangers as often as we help families, friends, and neighbors. Collectively, we make Hinton a more desirable, supportive, and interesting place to live. With this sentiment, I urge my fellow citizens to recognize and appreciate the crucial role of volunteers in our community. Now, therefore, on behalf of Council, I, Mayor Brian LaBerge, do hereby proclaim April 19th to 25th, 2026 as National Volunteer Week in Hinton. I also formally invite you to attend Hinton's annual Volunteer Recruitment Fair on Thursday, April 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Royal Canadian Legion. That was one of the best ones. That's a great proclamation. All right, so then it's on to correspondence. And we have a request for penalty removal.
Yeah, through the mayor to members of council, typically how we've handled these is council can make a decision to action, or we can accept the correspondence for information. And to action could be for staff to bring back a report on this particular one, or to provide waiver of the penalties as is being requested in the letter.
All right. How do we want to deal with it, Council? Councilor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council accept the penalty removal request for correspondence. Thank you. Or for information.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion that council accept the correspondence for information. Any thoughts, comments? Seeing none, I call the question that council accept the correspondence for information. Please vote. And that's passed unanimously. Thank you. And item number 8, notices of motion. Do we have anything tonight?
There are none.
Thank you. And then on to reporting. And maybe we can start to my right with Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. I attended the Business Support Network meeting along with other counselors. And it's a wonderful group for businesses to be a part of. They get to discuss what's important in their businesses and to learn from other businesses as well. It's an organization, or not an organization, but it's a committee that's been meeting for years. And then I think around COVID it stopped. So I'm really pleased to see it get back and running. I wanted to make a comment on Councillor Nelson's comment, because I noticed as well, somebody had made a comment that there was no growth in our strategic plan. And I think when you go through it, even though maybe those words weren't in part of the vision, every bit of the tactical plan is supporting growth in Hinton. So I just wanted to make that comment as well. And I also attended the Youth Advisory Council meeting, and they are currently working on a project to submit. They're just, they've picked one, but they have to look into the details of it to see if it's feasible. And they do have, I believe it's June 4th date to be at Pine Valley to help with the bingo that day. And that's part of the Seniors Week. So that the timing was really well or good for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
Yes, I attended the Public Advisory Committee meeting in Pulp Mill yesterday. They continue to see Mondi invest in their expansion project, and also they laid out some projects in capital budget for emission management program. So most of it is around the holding ponds and the infrastructure leading into the holding ponds. One of the suggestions I made at the meeting and is that they come to council and make that presentation, because I think it's a very important issue, especially the odor issue around the ponds. So that's what this capital project is going to be dealing with. So I believe that they are going to come before council and make that presentation. So that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Charlton.
I also was able to attend the BSN meeting, very well attended, which is really great to see that the group is strong and really good engagement. It was great that Mayor Labarge could present the strategic and tactical plan. It was also great to have a few of our fellow councillors in the room, because I think that allowed some questions to be answered and just really showed that, you know, we're really proud of the work that's being done, and just to expose it to the local business community. So it was great.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you. Since my last meeting, I did attend the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Association audit meeting. Everything was good there. Still
Was it
seeing-
exciting as ours?
It was a little bit shorter, but it was good. So I did attend that meeting. And this month there was not a historical society meeting, as the museum was closed for some renovations and a little bit of a refresh by some volunteer groups. But as of today, they are reopened again. So they're back now, and some fresh coats of paint and clean windows and all those things. So we'll be back on schedule for next month.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. Yeah, I also was at BSN. I think so. BSN happens once a month, and it's basically for the business community. There's usually snacks and food, but and coffee, but there's generally a very good speaker presentation. Obviously, this one was also just a great presentation.
It was
speaker,
okay.
But BSN was something that existed pretty much the entire time I've lived in Hinton up until a couple of years ago, and it's a great way to bring business together, talk about challenges people are having, and I encourage any business to show up, ask for what type of speaker you're looking for. It's where I was exposed to people like Doug Griffiths and like so many people that have great ideas around how to build community, how to support business, how to support each other, and really how to kind of do it ourselves, right? Not rely on other entities to make sure that our community has what it needs. So I just encourage everybody to attend BSNs as often as possible. They're fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you. And I actually had to zoom in because I was at the Economic Developers of Alberta conference in Kananaskis. So it wasn't with great pain, but it was really an interesting conference. And what I was most struck by, and we seem to be overwhelmed with all the bad news, but I must say that they had some international investors there, and there is a lot of interest in Alberta right now, and there's some really interesting things going on. you know, there's counties and municipalities looking at SMR's small modular reactors from a power production perspective. There's huge growth in aeronautics. There's Cold Lake, I think, is that region between the range and the community itself. They're looking at almost $4 billion worth of investment of the federal government there. So there's a lot of really positive things going on in Alberta right now. And you know, that meeting at the BSN, that's our way forward to having a look at getting, you know, our share of those things that are going on to put forward a reality where investors want to come here. And I put the challenge out to administration that might be, for some members of administration, a really good sounding board for what's going on in the community. But I do appreciate the groups that have stepped up and took that on. So with that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed. Oh, I'm going to stop.
Thank you.
Administration.
Nothing to report.
Oh, you dog. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make a motion that we move into closed session at 5:18 PM.
Thank you. And with that, please vote. And that's passed unanimously. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I know. Yes, I know.
Close. Statements awful. We had a meeting in the back, but I said. Yes. And somebody goes off. Somebody goes off.